Hey, you're listening to the Burnt Out Entrepreneur podcast, where you'll learn why you're feeling so burnt out, some insights and hacks to get you along this entrepreneurial journey. I'm Kylie Yota, former oil and gas manager turned health coach, life coach, and business mentor for female entrepreneurs just like you, and help them heal and recover from burnout. Hello and welcome back to the Burnt Out Entrepreneur podcast. Today's episode, I'm speaking with Jennifer Nagel. And she is a coach. Actually, she is an online CEO. Let's get that straight real quick. But she's also the founder of a mastermind community called the Success Revolution Society. And she's had a 20-plus year career that allowed her to master developing meaningful connections. And that's super important when you're in business, especially online, and you want to make connections. Because I recently, right before this interview, I came from an in-person networking event, which thank God we get to do these things after how many years of being in lockdowns. The power of community and building your network, that's super important with online businesses. And she's going to share with us today her signature framework that guides us as female entrepreneurs to build genuine, profitable, and strategic collaborations. Can step into that life and that vision that we have on our vision board, because it doesn't really make any sense if we have a vision board, but we don't actually step into that thing that we've created, because then it's just like pictures on a board somewhere in your house. It doesn't do what it's intended to do. Without further ado, let's just get straight to it. The other thing that we're also going to talk about today is this bro marketing. Okay. So Jennifer, you can go ahead and just start talking about that piece, because I am anti-bro marketing. Yes, there's a masculine energy. I've been in a masculine field for 19 years in oil and gas, super masculine. I was also in the military, super masculine vibe there. And then when I transitioned into entrepreneurship, it was like having to adjust to having a more feminine energy, because I wanted to work with females who deal with burnout, because yes, men experience burnout a certain way, but then as females, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I experienced. You have to be a mom, you have to be a wife, you have to have all of this feminine energy on one hand, and then a lot of the marketing and sales tactics that are being taught in the marketplace are very bro-ish. So just lay it on us.
Well, first, thank you for having me on your show. I'm so excited because I love the work that you're doing around burnout. It's so important. And, the bro marketing, the masculine and feminine energy and all that stuff, to me, boils down to when people are burned out, it's typically a mismatch between what they feel like they have to do and what they really need or want. And so I think when you're talking about all the different tactics out there, especially for me, like the area of expertise is building relationships and community. It's that we've been taught to do a thing a certain way for a really long time. And sometimes it just doesn't align. You're forcing yourself into this thing that doesn't feel good. It's exhausting. It's tiring, because when you're truly in alignment with what your gifts are and what your talents are, it feels good. It feels energetic. And I'm not saying you're going to be happy 100% of the time and, fart roses and all that stuff, but generally there's a much more positive energy around it. So I definitely I say the bro and the broettes, and I jokingly say that. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is there's so many things out there telling us what we should do that feels it goes completely against our nature, our tendencies, the things that really light us up. And so a lot of what I talk about is just giving you permission, not giving you permission, but encouraging you to do your thing, whatever your thing is. And I love talking about that in terms of traditional networking versus building relationships. I think that's a really great example where we have these rules that came from God knows where that we feel like have to follow. And if you've ever been, I say, the victim of the bad cookies and punch and the business card exchange extravaganza, no, I have not yet met a human being alive who likes that environment. Yet it seems like we continue to force ourselves, whether it's in person or online, into those situations for the sake of building community and building networks. So yeah, that's
Right.
what I love to talk about. I beat up and call people the bros and stuff like that, but we've all done it. We've all been there where we have been doing some sort of tactic or technique that someone who's had success with has done, and we try to force ourselves to do it. And instead of saying, you know what, this may not be the right thing for me, we just continue to beat ourselves up about it, and then we get tired and exhausted, and we feel like we're failures, and then they hire you.
Right, that's the thing. We feel like we're failures. And that, that just exacerbates whatever feelings of burnout that we're having, and oh my gosh. So I wanted to get into what you talk about, like how do we stop networking and start connecting with our audiences? And that could be online audiences, that could be in-person audiences, especially for us as the popular archetype, the extreme extroverts who love being with people. I squeezed in a networking event right for his podcast recording. So that tells you how much I love connecting with people. And honestly, most of my referrals have been with people that I've met in person, because there's just a different type of connection and a vibe that you have about, in person. But I understand, right? Most of us here listening to this podcast have online businesses, right? Or social media, email marketing, like all the digital ways that we get in connection with our audience. So anyway, lay it on us. How do we do that?
That's such a
in a
great
digital
question.
world?
It's such a great question. And I think it all boils down to intention. And I usually tell people that I'm not necessarily into traditional networking. I'm into relationship building, because that's my intention when I meet someone. It's not just an exchange of what can I get from this person, and the person looking at me like, can I get from her? I think first and foremost, before you can get into referrals and all that stuff, you have to establish trust. And in order to do that, you have to have the intention of actually getting to know the other human that you're talking to. So my philosophy is, if your intention is what can I get, you're never really going to have this great, wonderful, trustful relationship building situation. And I always joke around and say, well, think about the last traditional networking event you went to. You got on your, your business suit, or maybe it's a virtual networking event, and you got your 10-second spiel ready to go, and you're meeting people, smiling.
I'm so horrible at my elevator pitch. I'm like, I don't know, let's have coffee, I can tell you more.
You've got that ready to go, and then the questions are very surface level. Who do you help, and who's your niche, or who would you like to be introduced to? And that really all drives to transaction, versus the way I like to teach people. It's like, hey, Kylie, what's up? Where do you live? Gosh, tell me more about that. How did you get to, here from Hawaii? And I get to know you as a person. And then we're talking about real things in our lives. And at the end of that conversation, we either each other, or you were like, hey, you're cool, but not my kind of cool. And you move on. But at the end of that first interaction, where you're like, who are you? And you just know a set of facts about people. And then maybe you'll call them back one day, or you'll put them in your CRM or your Rolodex or your business card holder, flip through them every now and then and say something like, I'd love to check back in with you. How's everything going? And then you have that surface level, how's the weather where you are, chit chat conversation. Whereas the last time you may have met a friend, maybe you bonded over your favorite type of coffee, or the fact that you both like Star Wars, or you had this great conversation about DC versus Marvel. But the thing is, you bonded, you had this connection.
I love all of those, by the way. Our next chat, we're going to have to talk about all those things.
Well, don't say anything about Wakanda, because at the time of this taping, I have not seen it. My husband.
I haven't either, so I will not. Okay.
We're going tomorrow.
Okay.
But then you actually person. And so in a couple weeks, you're like, yeah, let me call Kylie again. Let's see what's going on. And then at the end of the day, if you have these two people who you met in these two ways, two different situations, if someone asks me, and let's assume you're both burnout coaches, if someone says, Jennifer, I need someone to help me with burnout, I know both of you, but I'm going to go with a person that I have a real connection with. So the intention has to be to get to know the person, to truly establish trust and not just get a transaction. Because at the end of the day, it's the relationships that are built on trust, connections, that are the ones where people are actually referring you, or where people will hire you, or they want to collaborate with you. And I think we in the online space are taught much about systems, and this is how you do it, and you need to talk to 100 people and then convert 13%, and then it goes to this and you'll have 5 customers. So forget the human side of it. And then you end up doing all this stuff, spending all this time, and then not really having that much to show for it. Where instead, it's like I spend my days talking about, like, you know, how stupid are the Kardashians? Although, you know, I'll be honest, I like Chloe. Don't even go there. You know, I might talk about the royal family, or you might see pictures of my dogs. And those are the people who I do business with and who do business with me and join the community. And that's how we get to that much, much deeper level of trust and wanting that other person to win and succeed, because we trust them, we have a bond. And I think business could be so more fun that way, and the burnout would be so much less, because you're actually doing something that makes you happy and brings you joy, and it helps you develop positive relationships.
Totally. That's the whole thing that I want. That's the number one thing I want people to get out of this podcast is, one, how to recognize the signs of burnout, and how do you get rid of it, and or eventually get rid of it through whatever means. But the bottom line to like reducing and eliminating burnout is just focusing on the things that you love. Stop doing the things you hate. And I have a process called the AED, where it's automate, eliminate, and delegate. I named it after the defibrillating machine called the AED, right? Because it's an easy way that I can say, supercharge your business with the AED. Automate, eliminate, delegate. And everyone knows what those things are. But a lot of the people who are in this, time versus money. I can do it myself, but I don't have really the money to invest. And I always talk about, well, how much money do you make versus how much money it would take to pay a VA? And there's another episode that I recently recorded that we talked about how to give your things to a VA, because there's, again, the trust factor. How do you choose a VA that you trust so that the productivity level is that much higher? In all aspects of your business, whether it's sales, whether it's operations, trust is the opposite side. Distrust is, I think, 1 or 2 in the factors of burnout, the underlying factors. We trust ourselves. Do we trust our partners? Do we trust our customers even? Do we trust the people that we're making connections with? And anyway, this is I know you're going to share with us like your 5-step method on how you build those relationships, and really how do you, well, it's the 5 C's. So I know cultivate is one of them, but so how do you cultivate those relationships that you have online, and how do you really know who to trust and not trust? Because I know a lot of what I talk about online is, yes, there's the physical part, but then there's the mental health and the trauma. A lot of the underlying symptoms of burnout are related to trauma and things that we've experienced in our lives. And so how that trauma and trust, right, they're on both opposite sides of that wheel. And how do we reduce the trauma so we can begin to increase our trust levels? That's probably another subject for another day. But why don't you give us the steps on how we can begin to really build those relationships online, and real relationships, and not the fake ones, not the ones where they're like just there for sales and you can feel the manipulation. So I know a lot of the people who are feelers, you're like empaths, or we can feel the energy of the people that are coming, and we're like, no, there's just something funky about you. My body doesn't trust you. So we'll put them at arm's length. But like you said, when we have these connections and we develop these relationships with people. For sure, all the girls that I was with today at the networking event, because it's not a bro marketing event, a lot of the people there have left the traditional marketing circles. Not going to name them, but they left those circles, and she actually created this group for women like us that just want to connect. We want to build real relationships with the people that we want to work with. And it's super chill, super cool. And it's everything that we talked about. Without me going off on this tangent, how do we, what is your process for helping us who need to rewire our brains from that traditional model, and how do we rebuild trust with ourselves and our network?
That's such a great question, because a lot of times we think that, first I would like to say this, I call it my 5 C's process, but it's also, I want you to think of it as a recipe. You don't have to follow it exactly, but this is for those people who are like, I have no clue where to start. This is a starting spot. But I, again, believe that you should tailor things to make them fit for you. This is my process. This is what feels really good to me. But I know people who have variations of this. First step is cut. And you talked about having all these people around who don't feel good, and you can kind of sense it. It's okay for you not to talk to them. So the first thing I talk about is go through your Instagram, go through your Facebook, go through your Rolodex. Does that date me? Does that make me sound old when I say that? Go through your cards, go through all the people that you know or the groups that you spend time with, and ask yourself, does this feel good? That's my first thing. I'm like, does this feel good? Because there are some people out there who are lovely people doing great things, but for some reason, when I engage with their stuff, I don't walk away feeling great. Now that could be something with me, whatever, but guess what? I don't need that in my orbit. So I stop following it, or I cut it. Other thing that you can think of is, okay, so you have this group of people, and you know how we always hear that adage, know, love, trust. I always think that's, it's a wonderful adage, but I think we use it so much that people really forget what that means. Like, reframe it. Instead of know, like, trust, I think of familiarity instead of know, that you're familiar with someone. Joy, does this person bring me joy? Versus, and then trust, looking at integrity. Okay. You go through your contacts and ask yourself, am I familiar with this person? Really know them? Do I know if they, wearing purple socks, or their favorite team is the 49ers, or, they have 2 moms, or, whatever? Do I know who this person is? And then the second question, do I like them, or do they bring me joy? When I see this person pop up in my feed, am I like, they're so yay, or here they are again? And then trust, I like to think of integrity. Do we share a similar set of values? Is this someone who, if I were to refer them or work with them, that they would do what they say they would do? And so when you start going through your contacts, thinking about familiarity, joy, and integrity, you start to get a list of, yes, I do feel like I know these people, I like people and trust those people with this new rubric, or I don't. And then the question is, okay, for those who I don't necessarily know, like, trust, do I want to?
That's a big thing. Do you want to connect with these people? And I love how you reframe the know, like, trust, because like you said, it's an adage that it's like want, feels like Charlie Brown, and the trust piece, integrity. Are these people in integrity with me? And like, our spidey senses will pick it up. You can feel the familiarity. Do I know them? And like, do they bring you joy? Marie Kondo your friends list.
Exactly, Marie Kondo. But here's the cool part. It's not how you feel about them. You have to ask yourself, could they say the same things about you? And that's where you really understand whether you have a really great relationship. So use that rubric to decide whether these people are people you have strong relationships with, and whether they feel the same. And if you don't, then you can say, well, do I want to? And if the answer is no, then you cut them. I mean, and it sounds kind of cruel, but it's not. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It just means you can stop using your energy there. And then if you don't feel that way about them, but you want to, that's when you move to that second C, which is cultivate. So using that, you cultivate a list of people or cultivate a group of people that you really do want to get to know more, or you want to spend more time with, so you can develop the new know, like, trust with them. The other thing is when you're cultivating people that you want to grow a network with, then you can also go to the people who you do have great relationships with and ask them, like, who else should I know? Because usually those folks have really cool friends just like them. I know my circle of, entrepreneurs and friends and biz people are pretty damn awesome. So if people are like, hey, can you introduce me to some great people? I have a whole big list of people. I'm like, oh gosh, you would love so-and-so. So that's where you get to that second C, which is cultivate.
I like what you said, cultivate versus collect. There's a lot of times when we go to these networking events, it's like collect all these business cards, and like it's such a different vibe when you said cultivate. Like, it resonated with me was like cultivate versus collecting.
Because collecting is like sleazy dude at the club collecting numbers. That's not the person that you're going to, make your significant other and start a family with. You're talking, you're not going to talk to that person. And that's what we're talking about. How do we cultivate these really great, and this is where a lot of people, screw it up, right? This is where we go back to the stuff we've been taught forever. Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I'm going to tell you all about my business. Connecting, first, set boundaries. When I say that, I mean, and this is great, especially if you're someone who I'm going to do this coffee chat for 30 minutes, or I'm going to go to this mixer event for, an hour or whatever, or respect the other person's time. The other thing I do is set boundaries around what we talk about. So if you ever booked a coffee chat with me, in the booking confirmation, it will say, hey, I want to get to know you. I'm not going to be talking about business, and I ask you not to do the same. And I set boundaries around how I want this to go. Then I also let myself know, and this is, I don't know if boundary is the right word, but I say, you know what, I'm going to meet this person. We could be super cool, or maybe we don't hit it off, and either one is fine. Because in the real world, not everyone you meet is going to be your best buddy. It's not going to be your best business partner, but you will meet people. And when I connect, I make sure I have those boundaries in place. And then when I have the conversation, whether it's in person or online, I really do ask normal people questions. So, and if you're not sure what those are, or you get really nervous and you need a couple conversation starters, ask them, like, what'd you do today? Or what are you looking forward to this week? Or, I always ask, where are you from? And I think you get so great responses to where are you from, especially in the online space. We're like, I live in LA, but I'm from Hawaii. I'm like, well, that's cool. And then usually there's a story there. And then you start to vibe back and forth. And then sooner or later, the 30 minutes or the hour, whatever, has gone by quickly, and you've made a human connection. Then after that is the continue phase. Now, this is also another place where people kind of biff it, because again, you don't necessarily fall in love with everyone you meet, and that's okay. But you don't have to. I always tell people, don't, like, if you didn't connect with someone, don't say, oh, we should definitely do something later. Thank them for their time, and you say, I really appreciated meeting you, and let it go. And if you did connect with them, then definitely continue the conversation. And continuing the conversation doesn't look like, buy my wares, or here's my website. Continuing the conversation might be a message on social media. It might be, it could be a whole bunch of other things, but keep the conversation going. If you were talking about something really interesting, follow up with a resource and be like, oh, I remember when we were talking about this thing. Here's what I meant, and give them a link. Now, if someone said, hey, tell me more about the business you do, absolutely send them to your site, but don't do it in an unsolicited way. And then the last C is cadence. And this, I think, is especially especially speaks to people who are prone to burnout. You can have a cadence or how often you do this with whatever makes sense to you. You have seasons in your life. You have seasons in your business. So you may not be able to be like, I will talk to 5 people a day for 5 days a week for 52 weeks out of the year. No, literally, this is my last conversation before I take several all this other to you to make these connections. Maybe it's 1 or 2 conversations, new conversations a week. Maybe it's 1 or 2 a month. Maybe it's 1 event a month. Whatever it is, create a cadence that makes sense. And I guarantee you, whatever you choose will be right. Whatever you choose, you will cultivate some amazing connections. And I think what people don't realize is genuine trust-based connections exponentially grow your network, your circle, your business, your partnerships, and you'll have so much more fun doing it.
That's great. Even like these first couple of episodes are people that I technically met in real life online, because I met you through another person, through another group that we're in together, and then we're friends on social media. And I was like, you know what, I got to get her on the podcast, because what you talked about in that other community, I was like, oh gosh, she's a genius. Talked about these 5 C's in that other community as a guest speaker. I was like, I need her to be on my podcast, because I know a lot of people who get burnt out on social media and connecting with people. And me, I'm a natural connector. As you're talking about all those different phases, I was like, I think I kind of just naturally do that because I'm a natural connector. But there are people who, I would say for the most part, the introverts, because my daughter is an introvert. She's an introvert when she's around people that she knows and is familiar with. She's a natural connector as well. But it's those relationships where she's like, I don't really know. For me, familiarity, joy, and trust is not there for her. It's like,
I think that brings up such a great point, because a lot of times we are told we have to be these big personality, extroverted folks. Most people do not believe this about me, but my base human thing, I am incredibly shy. I am not the person that you're going to see, in the front of the line, speaking as loudly as possible, blah, blah, blah. I'm just not that person. And I never have been that person. My sister is someone who can, be on a 5-minute bus ride and then walk away with a best friend for the rest of her life. It's just funny. But I'm someone who's actually naturally shy. Having a relationship-based approach feels so much better for me. And even social media, again, you have, quote, the rules, have to post reels, you have to do this, you have to do that to grow your business. And I am like, you know what? I am going to use social media in the way that makes sense for me. I even posted, speaking of cutting, I posted a reel a long time ago that I used to have close to like 1,000 followers. And then I realized that like, those people did not make my familiarity, joy, integrity, cut. And I think I removed, I went down to like 100 or something followers, which in the online business space is like, why would you do that? But my goodness, my community exploded. My conversations were much more rich and fulfilling. And now I know the people who are looking at my content are actually people that if I don't feel have the familiarity, joy, and integrity, I want to. These are people that I want in my space. These are people that I feel good about. And I use social media for the conversations now. I don't think you have to follow the rules that are out there. You have to figure out what makes sense for you, what's in integrity with you, and then use the tools to, I don't know, just be real, be who you are. And I think that I can tell you, for me, social media used to give me hives. I used to, oh my gosh, I would stress about that. I would compare myself. But now that I am in alignment with who I am, now that I use a relationship-based way, which is exactly who Jennifer is, the burnout piece is gone. And so really about trusting yourself and your instincts. And yes, I follow my 5 C's recipe, but it is a recipe. If you're listening to this, pick and choose what sounds good to you, what works well for you, and make it your own. And you'll probably start to, the stress will start to melt away because you're finally in alignment and integrity with who you are.
I love that. Because right, I'm a systems person. I love my apps, my systems. I love all of it. But I love the individualization that I do with my clients. That's why I love the strategy sessions, because I get to meet with the people, because not everyone is at the same tech level. Not everyone is at the same investment level. Like, what works for you? And not everyone's in the same business phase as well. Something that will help someone scale from 6 to 7 figures, those tools I will not recommend to someone who's going from 5 to 6 figures, because budgets, needs, like ability, like team, what kind of team do you have? Is it all the different factors? Yes, I talk about systems all the time, but what feels good for you is that thing that's going to eliminate the burnout. Because if I put you in a tech or an app that it's like, you're not going to use it. 5 C's. If you don't want to do one of those C's, then your brain is going to cut off the rest of the C's, because like, I am not following the recipe exactly. No, have the freedom to do maybe one of the C's and
It's
see.
kind of like, were you and I talking about mac and cheese? Was that our conversation?
No, but
It
I
wasn't.
just
Let
went
me
to a
just
soul
use that
food
analogy.
cooking class, and I'll just say, I'm from Hawaii, so not experienced any Southern cooking. I went to a cooking class here in LA, and I learned how to make mac and cheese, fried chicken, collard greens, what else? Cornbread. I learned how to make
Yeah.
that.
All right. Well, now you can
So,
cook for me. Bring up mac and cheese because it is macaroni and cheese is basically pasta and cheese. And this is I can't remember, some genius woman I was having a conversation with. So listening to this, I want to give you credit, but I can't remember who I was talking to. It wasn't mine, but this was brilliant. She's like, at the base of it, it's pasta and it's cheese. There's not like a whole lot of difference. However, if you go to anybody in the country, everybody makes mac and cheese a little bit differently. And that's how connections are. I might be giving you the recipe from the Betty Crocker cookbook for mac and cheese or for creating really great relationships, but you're going to learn and tweak it and make it work for you. And I think giving yourself permission to say, F the rules, abandon the rules, and let me feel out what makes sense to me is really the secret behind what I teach, from traditional networking to relationship building. And also, I mean, and really anything that we do as business owners. And that's where I think the stress goes away. We are all completely different people. There is nobody, even if you're a twin, your twin is not exactly you. That means that how you approach your life, your business, your family is all going to be completely different. And so, yes, there are some general guidelines. There's some mac and cheese recipes. But at the end of the day, it's like you're going to, listen to your ancestors and figure out how much salt to put in that bad boy. You have to follow your own path. So for everyone who taught me that this is how you network, I rejected that. And I said, that's not true. It's not true for me. And I felt so better when I started to lean into really building trusting, relationship-based communities. And that's why the culture of my community, Success Revolution Society, is really unique. We're a community. We do masterminding, we do all that stuff, but we do it in a way that is so much more aligned with our culture and our values as a group. Feels different. My one piece of advice to you, if you're thinking about relationship building or sick of networking, is like, find your own mac and cheese recipe. Find your own mac and cheese recipe for your business, for your connections and your community, and you're going to be so much happier and far less prone to burnout.
And that's the other thing. There's a lot of business coaches in this online space. Every single business coach has their own mac and cheese recipe, just like every family has their own mac and cheese recipe. And we're recording this Thanksgiving week. Just put that out there. And whoever gets nominated to do the mac and cheese and bring the mac and cheese to the party, it's the holy grail of like, oh, that's like the honorable position in the family. Finally made it because I'm bringing the mac and cheese. In Hawaii, it's mac salad, potato mac salad. Yeah, that it's there is that traditional family recipe, but if you make it your own, then that's like, I don't like pickle juice in my potato salad. I love deviled egg taste in mine. Just there's different people when I told people I went to a class and I learned how to make mac and cheese, it's like the first question was like, well, what did you put in it? And I was like, I just followed the recipe. How many cheeses? Because I use this one, I use this one, and all of the people were talking about all the different cheese or the different methods that they use to make their version of mac and cheese. That's exactly it is the recipe for eliminating burnout, whether in relationships or just your business, is find your mac and cheese recipe on how you want to build your business your way, because that's the only way that's going to feel good to you. That's why I created the burnout archetypes, because I realized that there are different, different clients that I was working with, and because they came in with different personalities and different temperaments, it wasn't one size fits all. There were the perfectionists who love the time management, time blocking. They love super systems, and then we have on the opposite end of that spectrum is the popular archetype, the social butterfly, the people who like to really connect, and I'll say just kind of have an ADHD vibe to us. And it's like they're all over the place. They hate system. Don't put me in a box. And it's fine, but we find and I even have to word systems differently because they're like stumped. And it really is about what feels good to you to help build your business. If you want to have all of this, then you should definitely hire an operations manager or even a virtual assistant who is the opposite from you to help really ground you and give you that that structure that you need as a business owner that you're not innately gifted to have.
Wow, whoever thought we'd be talking about burnout, relationship building, and mac and cheese all in the same for 30 minutes. See, this is why I like myself. It's so much more fun.
Another thing that I really want you to talk about is we'll talk about your special sauce, the special secret cheese that you put on your mac and cheese, which is how do you really tell who is a good fit for you and how do you know which people to cut out?
Such a good question. And I'll answer that. I am someone who's very much driven by my values. Values are so important to me. And, if you have not yet defined your values in your business, do that. And don't just do some sort of like worksheet exercise. Talk about what's really important to you. So I have 3 values in my business: deep connection, which shouldn't surprise anyone, equity and inclusion, and bold authenticity. You need people to be exactly who they are and say what they say with no BS. And so those are the 3 values. And those are the things that when I work with my brand designer, shout out to Christy Black Creative, I worked with my brand designer. She asked me so great questions just about who I was and what was important to me in my life. And then she came up with these 3 terms that she said, I keep hearing you say these 3 things or these 3 versions of these things. And so for me, other than the intent and building trust, my secret sauce is, do we really connect on the values piece? And then there's an element of trusting your gut, trusting your instincts. We've probably all had that experience where you met someone and on paper, they're perfect. And I'll use myself as an example. There was this guy I dated after I got divorced, but before I met my awesome current husband, Paul. And on paper, he was gorgeous. Okay. He was good looking. He cooked all this stuff. He could cut a suit. A man looked great. Okay. And
check all the boxes.
All the boxes. Totally not the right for me. And in my gut, I knew it. But I was like, man, they look so on paper. There are people that we interact with that are the same. They look great on paper. Maybe they have the perfect social media, but there's a gut feeling. And I truly believe that gut is, whether you believe in God or the universe or energy, that's somebody telling you something. And it's okay if you listen to it. Are going to be people, and I came across this when I was doing my Instagram cleansing, my Marie Kondo of Instagram, my home editing of Instagram. But it's like, there are people, it's like, it's not that I didn't let them, but there was a feeling. And so, yes, it was easy to go through and do I trust this person? Do I have the no like factor, the reframe no like factor? Do they align with my values? And then there were just people who may have checked all those boxes, but at the end of the day, it didn't feel right. And so, the secret is not secret, but it's trust yourself, know your values, know what's important, and then trust the voice in your head or trust the feeling in your gut and use that. So I'm making connections with people. I'm a systems freak too. Okay. Love that about you, Kylie. And I think we had a 20-minute conversation about Airtable. That's how geeky we are. And I absolutely love it. But I keep track of my contacts on Airtable because I suffer from CRS, can't remember, crap.
Or maybe we can call it CRC. Can't remember.
CRC.
Crap.
There we go. And so I keep track of my people that I meet on my Airtable table. And one of the categories I have are vibes. It's like high vibes, or not a good connection. Because at the end of the day, it's like we can talk and have all the stuff, but I either walk away with a good feeling or I don't. Or it's like I like you, but I'm not like, I can't wait to talk to that person again. And so that's an important column for me. It is the most important column. Because at the end of the day, I want to surround myself with people who we have great vibes with, who we vibrate off this big frequency, and there's an energy and a positivity around what we're talking about. And the cool thing is that I have high vibes with people who are totally opposite of me, who are doing things that I'm not even familiar with, but man, they were cool. And it's like, hey, and I even said to one of my friends, it's like, I don't really get what you do yet, but I really like, and I want to know more. And now we're super close. She's someone in our community. And now it's like anytime someone is asking for a coach or someone who does what she does, I'm like, she's awesome. You're going to love her. And and so the vibe piece is really the secret sauce.
I love that. And I was like, as soon as you said that in our pre-interview, I was like, I need to do that. One, I need to move those things to Airtable because Airtable is the bomb. But I haven't really done that vibe or no vibe. It's like it's a mental thing, but especially with burnout, we're holding the space mentally. Do I vibe or not vibe? It's like I talk about RAM in your brain. It's just like having too many open tabs on your laptop that your computer goes down. You have all of these open tabs trying to keep tabs on the people in your network. You know what I mean? Then it is using a bandwidth. It's using up the RAM space on your brain. So yeah, I love that. Like take the time to connect. And I was thinking like, to create a zap from Instagram new follower to Airtable.
I think the big part is give yourself permission to let things go. If you're not into it, I don't care what people say. I don't care if this person sounds like dusting some sliced bread. If you don't feel it, let it go. And my goodness, I can't tell you with me implementing this philosophy this year, how much happier I am in the work that I do. How the quality of connections have just skyrocketed and how much more rested I feel because I am not spending time or energy or worrying about the things that just don't make sense for me. And I don't have to explain why either. I don't have to justify it. The fact that I don't have high vibes with this wonderful person is good enough. It's like, it's just not my person. And that's fine because then they can go on and find their perfect high vibe person. And there's plenty of space in the world and there's room in our lives for all of that. I asked someone once, how many people would you need in your business? How many customers to be a millionaire? It's not everybody. For a lot of people, it might be like 50 or 500, whatever. It's a small number. Why are we so focused on this quantity and all of this stuff? And let's just focus on quality and enjoying the journey and not rushing it either. That's the other thing. Take your time. It'll come. It'll be fine. High vibes only.
High vibes only. And to that point, once you have those deeper connections with the people on your social media feed, that will increase the algorithm for you naturally because they want to engage with you, you want to engage with them, and your engagement. We're talking. This is for my perfectionists who need the numbers, who need the, the feedback. It's all the tactics will tell you need to have this number because you're only going to get X% conversion, and the algorithm, schmalgorithm, But you know what I mean? Like when you have the engagement, because you and I both follow the same social media guru, shout out to Sophia Para, but right, she teaches us how to not, not look at these parts of the algorithm, but really look at the connections, like the DMs, the engagement, and who are you really connecting with on social media? Because that will naturally increase traffic and the algorithm, how to send DMs. Anyway, I love you, Sophia. Thank you for, if you're listening, we love you.
Yes, you're awesome. And I love that example because I for the numbers people out there, I'm going to share a stat with you right now. My current email list is maybe 100 people. It's small. And in the past, in my previous business, I don't think it was ever more than 1,000 people. However, my email open rates are always over 50%, usually over 60%, because the people who are on my list are people I have relationships with. And like I said, I don't need 2,000, 5,000 people on an email list to tell me or to help me create a great business. It's those people who are like on it because they open it. Not only that, they reply. I have so my emails go out on Tuesdays. I spend time chatting back and forth with people. And my emails aren't these strategically curated things. I'm being boldly authentic. I'm talking about things that matter, and I'm sharing, I'm connecting. And I'm usually sharing some resource or sharing someone in my network or my community who's doing something awesome. And people tell me, I love your emails because it's like I'm talking to you in person, because it's the same me. And so I could have an email list of 1,000 people and have 10% open rate, or I can have an email list of people who I really do care about and care about me, and knowing that they're all going to at some point open my emails and reply back to me and engage and click on the things that we're sharing with each other. That is just that's the difference between being driven by numbers and percentages and the intent behind the relationship. I'm being very candid. I don't really care what my numbers are. And sorry, Sophie, I don't check those. I never look at that stuff because that's not how I use this to really have conversations with the people in my community. And those are highly valuable and they're very meaningful. And I treat each interaction that way.
That's so good. And I had a client who was really focused on numbers, and it was always about, but I would say like her business was very sterile. It felt to me there was not a lot of connection with her audience, and yes, so she had the big numbers, and the only way she was able to get, I think, get the income that she needed was to have the big numbers, because we had 1%, 2% email open rate. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's why they teach that to you. And the other thing that came up to me while you were talking was the copywriting. I don't like writing copy. Anyway, but like I said, when you have a curated community, you don't have to worry about copy. You don't really have to worry about what am I saying, and like go back and edit and like, will this resonate? Will this offend? Will this? No, because the people that you've curated to be on your email list already resonate with you. So everything that you say, that's why they open it and that's why they engage. And like everything you put on social media, they will engage and they will resonate with you because they're in your high vibe category. And it really helps alleviate burnout and imposter syndrome when we get rid of those negative Nellies off of our email list and our timeline. Someone put out like, yes, please unsubscribe. And for the people, it's money. I was working on a team when I was doing a lot of more project manager work. So much money every time we launched because we're a big email list. Every time we do like big send out, I forgot. We need to increase the email budget because we're having a launch now. I said, do we really need the big numbers? No, you need the higher engagement rates with the people that you already have.
You need the right people.
You need the right people.
And I think the people you already have, I think sometimes we're so focused on everybody out there. You already have a community of people who really like you. And so cultivate them. And if you don't have a great deep connection and you want to start, at home first, you know? And speaking of email copywriting, I used to hate it with the fire of 1,000 suns. I used to hate writing email because I was so worried about how is this going to come off? And now I literally, something happens in my day, I start jotting it down. I'm like, this is kind of interesting or funny, or wouldn't it be cool to, you know, tell people about this? And it's like it's like I'm writing an email or DM to my friends. And yes, sometimes there are typos. Sometimes I curse. Sometimes I, you know, will include really bad jokes about, you know, millennial humor, or you'll see a meme from The Office, because that's who I am. And I think that's the part that people enjoy, because the person that they met in the virtual coffee chat or at the event or in the community is the same person talking to them via email.
And that's the no like trust factor. They're getting the same version of you no matter where you show up. I love that you said that. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is you have like open mixer that you host where we can meet people, and then you can totally take the 5 C's, take the vibe test, and really try it out for yourself. Meet new people online and see if you really vibe with them. And well, if you're vibing with me and Jennifer, well, you'll probably vibe with those people because Jennifer has a highly curated community. If you're vibing with us, you probably vibe with those people as well. Tell us how they can get into that.
We have what we call an advanced business workshop and mixer literally every month except December. And if you go to, and I'm sure you'll have this in your show notes, but HTTP, I mean, I don't know if you need to put all that crap in there, but / anyway, jennifernagel.co/mixer. What happens is we have one of our members of Success Revolution Society. And our group is for people who are established business owners. That's why we call it Advanced Business Workshop. We're going to talk about something that if you have experience running a business, you'll appreciate. Interestingly enough, our last conversation was about burnout. It was really good. But our members will give a 30-minute deep dive into a really interesting topic. And then the next hour, we're going to spend mixing. And I hate saying networking because it is absolutely nothing any other traditional networking event you've gone to. It's virtual, and I'm not going to tell you how we go about it, but I can say I have not yet met someone who's come to our event who has left saying, that was dumb. They always say, that was so refreshing. Or, you know, at first I was a little apprehensive, but I met such great people. And then you see the interaction. So it was really cool because I saw someone interview someone on their podcast that they'd met at the mixer. And I mean, it's just super cool to see those connections happening afterward. But I always say it's like the best way to experience our culture is to experience our culture, come to the things that we do. And whether you want to be part of Success Revolution Society or not, you're going to have a great time. You'll learn something new that you can use in your business. You will be connecting in a really fun, interesting way with people who could end up being your future business friends, your future clients, or even collaborators. And we have a good time. And it's just a relaxed kind of things. Put your business cards away. You can eliminate your 10-second elevator pitch and just come and relax and meet some awesome people doing wonderful things in their businesses and you know, have some fun. And so thank you so much. I'd love to invite all your listeners to future mixers. Go to jennifernagel.co/mixer and you'll see the latest topic and how to register.
I love it. And you'll see a special code in the show notes for free registration. So go ahead, check the show notes, look at them, and I don't write them for nothing. No, I'm just but that's the thing, right? A lot of times, like the main reason why I didn't start a podcast was like there's certain parts of the podcast that I don't want to do because like you said, the copywriting, but I don't write these show notes for nothing. Go check out the code in the show notes and the link to get that code.
Look at the link, and the code is Mixer7. And but please look at Kylie's show notes because it sounds like somebody is doing a lot of work to write those suckers down. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I definitely love to have everyone at the mixer because I think we need a lot more opportunities to just show up and be ourselves and have a good time. It is absolutely okay for you to have a great time at work. Contrary to how we have been raised, I don't even think of work as work. My life and the work that I do is almost seamless. I enjoy every aspect of it because I've created it in such a way where I don't need a vacation from my job. There are times where I just do other things and rest or spend more time with my family. But I absolutely love what I do. I love the people I connect with. They are such wonderful human beings like you. Really enjoy our new friendship, and it's just been much fun. Wait, come to a Mixer. Have a good time.
Yes. Okay, Mixer 7. You heard it. That's the code. JenniferNagel.co and .co/mixer. No?
That's JenniferNagel.co/mixer, and when you register, use the code Mixer7.
And if you want to see how Jennifer creates her content and curates her content, you can go follow her at The Real Jennifer Nagel on Instagram and just see if you vibe with her. And let's see if she vibes
and
with
say
you.
hi.
So,
Hi in the DMs. Say
yeah,
hi in the
hi in the
DMs.
DMs.
I will
Yeah.
actually say hi back because that's kind of how I roll.
Because she's using her 5 C's, of course. I'm so glad, Jennifer, that you came today, and just to have met you online, and we got to use the 5 C's, and thank God I made the High Vibes checklist box.
Girl, I would be talking to you if we didn't have high vibes. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I love the work that you're doing. I really excited to hear your other guests and other episodes because I know the work that you're doing is so needed and can be so helpful for all of us. So thank you again for having me on.
You're very welcome. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.